All right, this is called the restorative flow. It's a nice introduction to some of Katie Bowman's restorative exercise moves put together in a little routine. And it helps to have a half dome or something like a rolled up yoga mat to help us with our calf stretches. Also a pillow and a strap or belt of some sort to help us with some of our stretches. So we're going to begin sitting. We're going to do a little bit of hip opening in various positions. This is a cross-legged sit. Now this movement may not be available to everyone. So if it helps to come up on something higher, or even I have an ottoman here from a IKEA chair set, which is nice. So you can at least still have your hips in flexion and your feet crossed in different positions, but whatever works for you. If you can sit on the floor, that's great. But bolsters are our friends, so let's not forget that. So just sitting with our sit bones in contact with the floor, we're going to start moving the body forward. So we're hinging at the hips. And this is different than rounding the back. I'm just leaning as though my whole back from my pelvis up to my head was one board. And all the movement's only happening right at the hip joint. So I'm not rounding the back. I'm simply leaning front of my pelvis into my thighs. And if this is a movement that you're not comfortable with, or you haven't been sitting this way for a long time, this may be a little bit of an eye-opener. Again, it can help if it's too much to come up, if you raise your pelvis up a little bit more with your legs a little bit less. So your hips aren't as flexed, that can be a little bit easier, but we're just going to come into this movement nice and slow. And we're going to alternate it with some side to side. So we're not really pulling the butt cheeks up off the surface. We're opening up through the waist and the sides of the pelvis. If you've just woken up, I haven't moved for a bit, we're just kind of opening up some of the stiffness here in these parts that tend to be in the same positions for a long time. All right, we're going to combine this now too. A little bit of turning of the rib cage from side to side, using your abdominal muscles to turn your upper body. So I'm not grabbing and torquing with my hands, but maybe lightly placing my hands on my legs, just turning the upper body. Remembering to breathe. All right, now we're going to switch legs. So we're crossing them in the opposite direction. If you do sit this way, you always tend to sit in the same crossover. So we're going to mix it up a little bit, which doesn't seem like much, but every variation in degrees of joint rotation matters, especially if they're not ones that we use very much. So a little back and forth, side to side. We start to loosen up, start to engage and innervate all the musculature in the abdomen, torso, back, hips. Get a little bit of a head turning here too, just for added nutrition. It's like adding chia seeds to your smoothie, right? Forward, really digging into the inner part of the hips here. Side to side. So again, even if this particular configuration isn't available to you, sitting in a chair, is possible as well. You might need a footrest so you don't fall out of the chair, but anything that you can do where when your hips are in flexion, we can get some movement deeper into the hip joint. Okay, now we're going to come from here, and part of the routine here too is how we get up off the floor. So however that works for you, if you can do this without hands and knees and all of that, great. If not, we'll work up to that. We're going to come into our calf stretch. So placing, let me do it this way. Placing the object in front of the foot that I want to stretch. Feet are in alignment, toes pointing forward. I'm going to bring one foot up, ball of the foot on the top of the arch, heels on the floor, legs are straight, knees are not bent. And this may be enough of a stretch for you. But if you're comfortable here and you feel like you can go further, we can start to bring the other foot up closer to the foot that's stretching. This is going to increase the stretch in the calf on this side. So just being mindful that you're not holding your breath, you're not bending forward, you're not doing things to move out of intense tension. We're just giving a nice gentle stretch between the heel and the back of the knee. And we're going to come off there. Usually hold it about a minute or so. You can always go a little bit longer if you like, if you have the time. So again, lining up the feet, toes forward, top of the foot, the balls of the foot on the top of the dome, heel on the floor. My knee is straight. It's not tightened up, it's just comfortably extended. And again, if this is it isn't producing a whole lot of stretch for you, you can start to bring that other foot up. Lifting up tall. Trying to keep your upper body in alignment with your legs. You can go a little further. Sometimes you'll find one is a little tighter than the other, a little bit more cooperative. And breathing. All right, let's come off there. Now we're going to stretch the other part of the foot, the top of the foot. So finding your balance, we're going to bring one foot back, curl the toes under. Now if you can support your weight with your other leg, if this is a very tight sensation for you, in other words your toes are cramping up, then you'll want to mitigate the weight that you put on your foot. But if this is comfortable, you can bring your toes back a little bit and then start to shift your weight back to create this nice stretch up through the toes and the front of the foot, front of the leg. These are muscles that do not often get put in this position too often. And so what this will look like from here, you also want to make sure that you're not missing some of the toes, because where your greatest tension is going to be probably over the big toe. Right now mine's in the middle. But you want to get the big toe and the little ones. And if it starts to cramp up, just shake it out and come right back. It does get easier the more we do this. All right. And we're going to switch, bring the foot back. Lean the weight back if that's comfortable to do. Big toe, little toes. I'm just lifting these here so they have something to do. You can just, exercise your other toes as well. All right, shake that out. We're going to come back down to our seated position, sole to sole. Again, you can still do this in a chair or stool or sitting on a bolster, but bring the soles of your feet together and continuing the motion forward. It's going to be a little bit more intense into the inner thigh. Again, we're just leaning the whole upper body from the pelvis all the way up to the head forward. We're not rounding the back. So it's not a goal about trying to get to the floor. The goal is to open up in the hips. So if you're rounding the back, because it's tight here, then you're not really getting, you're not really targeting the area that we're doing this whole movement for. Again, side to side. Try to think about moving your pelvis and your waist while stabilizing, not your pelvis, I'm sorry, your rib cage and your waist while keeping your sit bones on the floor. And then again, turning side to side. There's a lot of intimate relationship between our ribs and our spine and our hips that we don't usually encounter in a lot of our day-to-day movement. It just doesn't really come up with most of what we need to do. Okay, now if you can stay in this position, we're going to do something called painting the globe. So we're still in this soul to soul sit unless you need to move your legs if this is too much. And we're going to pretend like we're sitting inside of a globe. So everywhere that the hands touch is the interior of the globe. And we need to paint it. So our fingers are paintbrushes. How much of our globe can we paint? So this is an exploration of the shoulder joint range of motion. And as your upper body is still, like, do we need to lean over to get more reach up here, or can we do it purely through the reach of the arms at the shoulder joint? We're just exploring that whole front, back, sides. Which parts are going to be left unpainted, right? As you get back here, it gets a little tough. Feels good though. Remember to breathe. All right, let's come back. This time we're going to come into a V-sit. So as wide as your legs can comfortably come out into a V. And again, continuing the leaning forward at the hip crease and side to side. So think about, spongy elasticity, not like, ripping through the inside part of your legs. Just kind of, so we're not really bouncing, we're just kind of, like gentle opening, elasticity feeling. We're not trying to create any kind of, we don't want to overstretch. We don't want to create reaction in the tissue. We're coaxing it open. Turning side to side. You might notice as you turn to one side how it pulls in the opposite inner thigh. Moving forward. A little bit wider. As we start to ease into it and the body can say, okay, I'll let you go a little bit further here, which is nice. Side to side. Okay, I'm going to come up again. Repeat the calf stretch. So again, however it is you need to come up. With your half dome, feet in alignment, ball of the foot, top of the dome, bring the other foot up. You might find it a little easier the second time around. You can bring your other foot further up. And even here, if you wanted to continue, you can't see my arms, but you can still continue with the painting the globe. So your upper body's doing something too while your lower body is stretching. That's perfectly okay. And repeat on the other side. Bring the other foot forward. Trying to keep the center of your body between the 2 feet. In other words, we're not wanting to lean over the leg that's stretching or leaning over the other leg, but try to keep your body weight like a line from the top of your head down through the center of your pelvic floor, right in the center between your feet. Again, just watching, make sure your feet aren't really ducked out. Their toes are more or less pointing forward if that's comfortable to do. All right, come off there, top of the foot stretch. It's nice if you have the balance available to you, or if you're trying to work on your balance using that other leg. Standing up tall through your other leg is going to help support your weight, and then you can lower it onto the other foot as is comfortable for you, using this leg to sort of toggle the force, the load, or pull it off. Throttle, that's the word I wanted. It's interesting, my other toe was always the one that would cramp up, but for some reason this one's been doing this lately. Such as it is with our bodies. Bring the other foot back. Getting all parts of the foot. And bring it back, maybe wiggle the toes out a little. All right, we're going to come back down to the floor. We're going to lie down now. So making sure you have some room here. And you can use a bolster for your head if you like. We're going to come into something what is called the floor angel. This is a little bit of nice upper body shoulder work. So you can keep your feet placed here if you like, if it's easier on your low back, or you can stretch them out, whatever's comfortable for you. And just lying with the backs of your hands, so you really, it helps to have something under your head, especially if you have a lot of curvature in your neck and upper back, just to let your shoulders be in a better position here. So that backs of the hands are on the floor, arms are stretched out, and just gently bring your arms up. Call them floor angels, like we used to make. I don't know if that's not everybody's experience, but making snow angels, where you drag your arms through the snow. So just imagining doing that. And noticing as you get up higher, the range of motion of your shoulder may be a little more restrictive. Not coming so far where you start to elevate your rib cage up to reach up here. The goal, again, isn't to reach above your head. The goal is to explore the range of motion at the shoulder joint. So if you start to get to a point where your shoulder blades are coming up to your ears, or your chest is coming up off the floor, that's pretty much where you want to stop. And you can relax there. Just bring it to where you can take some nice breaths and relax, breathe in, and then maybe bring them down. And then as your body relaxes, you can bring them up maybe a little higher. Play with keeping, so the backs of the hands stay on the floor. And then if you want to increase just a little bit more stretch in the upper arm, make sure that your thumb also stays on the floor. So that'll keep your upper arm externally rotated. All right. And now from here, I'm going to do a very gentle spinal twist. And if you've had back issues, I would say you might want to just skip this one for now until we've worked on this specifically. But if you're used to doing twisting motions with your spine, I'm going to bring my pelvis to this side facing you. So I'm going to kick my butt slightly to the left, to the opposite direction. I'm going to bring my right leg down, left knee up, 90-degree angle, and keeping my upper body on the floor as much as I can. I'm going to drop lower, gently lower my knee to the floor. So in other words, we're not rolling the entire torso over. By keeping the rib cage as close as I can to the floor, and the pelvis is moving relative to the rib cage, we're getting more of a twist through the spine. You could also try by rolling all the way over first, keeping the knee on the floor, and then rolling the upper body back. Bring the arm back. And again, just pausing and breathing into the space, breathing into the ribs, into the waist. Okay. And so coming from here, we can come back just to the side. So we're fully on the side of our side, right? Just adjusting your bolster for your head, so your head isn't in this thrust out chin position, back isn't too arched, and we're just going to bring the arm up. We're exploring the range of motion in the shoulder joint again, so it's easy to, access this part of things because this is the position we're usually in, but as we start to come up and over the head and up and over behind, it gets a little bit more interesting, and the tendency might be to raise the shoulder blade up or thrust the chest out again. So again, just making sure that we're only keeping this movement right at the shoulder joint. You can also adjust so your thumb is pointing behind you. This will externally rotate the upper arm and help to get more into the front of the shoulder. And this is really nice for facilitating lymphatic flow through the armpit and the breast tissue, because again, most of the positions we're in throughout the day is just keeping that whole area sedentary and compressed. So this is very nice to move fluid through this area, and it feels good on the shoulders too. And we're just kind of allowing gravity to take the arm and open up all of this under the armpit, around in the shoulder blade. All right. And we'll bring it back, come back to floor angel position. Just revisit that again. Bring the arms up. And overhead. This is a nice position too if you've been typing all day or doing anything where you're all out in front, to just lay with a pillow, and you can even bolster under your spine a little bit so your arms hang down lower than your chest, and just lay here. It feels really good to just have all of this open up and you don't have to do anything. All right, we're going to switch to the other side for the spinal twist. I'm just going to change my position so you're not looking at my butt. All right, so I'm bringing my pelvis over to one side, bring the leg up, lower it over, taking my time. I know I have a little bit of a restriction in this part of my back, so it's always a little bit tricky for me, but because I should do this a little bit more than I do, but thinking about keeping the middle of my spine and then my opposite shoulder as close to the floor as I can. Or again, I can just roll everything over, put my knee on the floor. You can also, if this is really inaccessible, you could put something under the knee. I mean, you can bolster it as high as you need to get some of that. Because this might be a little too much on the back, but when you bring it up a little, it gives you a little less intensity through the spine. And then again, just lowering the upper back, shoulder towards the floor. You can even do your windmills from here if you like. Works kind of the same way. Multitasking is our friend. Again, you can get your thumb to the floor above you, a little bit behind. Breathing into the armpit, breathing into the rib cage. All right, let's come back to the back. Revisit the floor angel and come up overhead. These are all things you could just do this for a half an hour and that would be fine. All right, let's come back up to sitting position. All right, we would do another calf stretch here, but for the interest of cutting this a little bit shorter, sitting cross-legged, let's do a little bit for the hands. Bring the backs of the hands together, reverse prayer hands, so we can do prayer hands, we can flip, open the wrists. You can get a little of your rocking in here if you like. All right, backs of the hands together. You can see how uneven mine is. When I broke this wrist, this was a motion I couldn't fully recover, which was not as important as this one, but you can definitely see the difference here. Can you bring the thumbs together? And bring the shoulders down, because when there's tension in the wrists, we tend to do this, trying to get it to work, and it's more important that we keep the shoulders down and only just come as far as your wrists will allow. All right, let's release that, shake them out. We're going to switch the legs again, and some finger stretches. So keeping your upper arm by your rib cage, everything's in a 90-degree angle all the way out to the fingers, so we're not out like this or out like this. Keep the wrist in line with the elbow, in line with the shoulder, and then the finger stretch in line with the wrist and the elbow and the shoulder. And just gently pull the edges, the ends of your fingers down, thinking about opening up into the palm of the hand. We'll do each finger at a time. Again, when we're in these internally rotated and gripping positions for hours at a day, hands start to adapt in ways that we really don't want them to. So this can help. Bring some of the opposite movement in. Let's do each finger. You might find some tighter than another. And then for the thumb, we're going to grasp the thumb at the joint. So make sure you're rotating the thumb around the base, supporting it with your whole hand, and then just gently rotating. We call this the joystick, if you know what that reference is for. All right, shake it out and do the other hand. Arm, hand, wrist in alignment, finger stretches. So as we stretch the fingers, they may also have a tendency to want to splay out. So try to keep the stretch in line with the palm of the hand. I don't know if you heard that. Little pop there. This one I can feel all the way up into my wrist, which is nice. And joystick thumbing. All right, one more big move here. As we shake them out, we're going to come back down onto the floor. Grab your strap, head bolstered on a pillow. So we're going to use the strap. We're going to place it around the balls of the feet. So we're not doing at the toes, but make sure it's just below the toes. We're going to extend the bottom leg out to the floor, and we're going to extend this leg out as well. So the knees are not bent. And just starting here, you can wrap this around so you're nice and comfortable. You don't need your arms to be really, really tense. Try to relax your shoulders, relax your rib cage, relax your back. And let your foot just hang. If you can, let it be dead weight, supported by your hand. So my leg's completely relaxed. If I took the strap away, my leg would drop to the floor. So just get that nice passive relaxation through the leg. And just gently pull the toes back. Get that calf stretch in there. You can push the toes away a little if you like, and then bring them back. And we're going to slowly start to bring the leg up. Again, we're working only at the hip joint, so when you get to your end range of motion, you want to make sure that your butt doesn't start coming up off the floor, because then you've just bypassed the hamstring tension point. And when you get there, just relax, breathe, hold it. And you can lower it a little again. Pull the toes back, push the toes away, bring it up. And now we're going to, and you might want to change the height of where your foot is, but I'm going to bring the leg across my body. So you're going to start to feel that nice line of tension in through the hip joint, in through the glutes. Again, trying not to roll the whole pelvis off the floor, only moving the leg, keep the pelvis on the floor. Relax your other leg, relax your chest. If you can't relax, we might be pushing it too far, so just let it lower a little bit till you can feel the rest of your body relax. And we're going to bring it up, and then we're going to bring it out to the side. You can do with one hand if you like. That's a nice one. So again, on your own here, you can take as much time with any of these as you like, and in other classes we get into different angles with the leg, which is good to play with. So if switched feet, extend the legs, relax, let your leg become dead weight, pull the toes back, push them away, pull them back, bring the leg up nice and slow, watch that your butt doesn't come off the floor. And if your knee starts to bend too, that's kind of another telltale that maybe you're pushing it too far. Only come up as far as you can before your knee is wanting to bend, because that's the end range of your hamstrings. And that's what we're trying to stay in touch with here. As soon as you bend the knee, you've taken that tension off, you've taken the stretch out of the hamstrings. All right, let's come across the body. Might be a little tighter on one side than another. Ooh, mama. All right, and then we're going to come to the other side. I'm going to grasp the strap with one hand. And bring it back. Release the strap. And then just come into a nice lying down position. If this is feeling too much pressure under your low back, you can just bolster your knees slightly. And then just take a moment or two or 10 or 3 hours if you want, and just relax here. Let your body integrate all that you've done here. Let your spine and your back muscles melt into the surface of whatever it is you're lying on. Take some nice breaths, and hopefully enjoy the feel good of all the flows we just opened up. All right, hope that was fun. Thank you for joining me.